Lecture No. 1. Theme: Early Britain. The first settlements. The Celts. Aim: to introduce students with the early history of Great Britain. Plan of the lecture. Prehistoric Britain, the Pre-Celtic Period, the Celts. Prehistoric Britain. A million years ago, the whole of northwestern Europe, including Britain, was in the grip of the last ice age. During this period, the ice advanced and retreated several times across the land. Britain was joined to Europe by a land bridge. Archaeologists think that the earliest ancestors of modern human beings may have entered Britain overland from Europe more than 500,000 years ago. These hominids belong to the Old Stone Age. They used stone tools and may have discovered how to control fire. They traveled as hunters, following herds of migrating wild animals. The earliest known settlements in Britain date from about 250,000 BC. They include a site at Clacton, Essex, where stone choppers have been found. About 70,000 BC, the last of the severe glaciations began, and for much of this period, no hominids lived in Britain. Those who did venture into Britain during short mild spells dwelt in caves. These hominids included the earliest modern human beings. About 12,000 BC, the last ice age was ending, and the climate had begun to improve. People still dwelt in caves and hunted for food. Cheddar in Somerset and Cresswell Crags in Derbyshire have produced many interesting finds from this period. These finds include Britain's only surviving works of Paleolithic art. One such find, the Dancing Man of Cresswell Crags, is a puzzling engraving on a piece of bone. It is said to resemble a masked male dancer. The Pre-Celtic Period. By about 8000 BC, Britain at last emerged from the Ice Age. Over the next 5,000 years, the improving climate changed the environment. The slowly rising temperature caused the ice sheets to melt and raised the level of the sea. Britain lost its land link with the rest of Europe after the formation of the English Channel and the North Sea about 5000 BC. Some historians refer to the original population as the Scots and Picts, with whom newcomers started merging. The Picts inhabited mainly Scotland and the Scots lived in what we know as Ireland, or Scotia. Britain attracted new settlers during this period. They hunted and fished, and their culture was more advanced than that of the Paleolithic period. Archaeologists call these settlers Mesolithic, Middle Stone Age, people. One group of these settlers migrated from Denmark not long after 8000 BC. Their most famous remains are at a settlement at Star Carr, North Yorkshire. Mesolithic people made such tools as saws and mattocks. Mesolithic hunters domesticated the dog. The people of this time also cleared a few areas of forest by fire, and some experts think they used the clearings for herding deer and other game. Shortly before 4000 BC, scattered tribes of people traveled to Britain from the mainland of Western Europe. These people brought the settled and highly organized culture of the Neolithic, New Stone Age, period with them. They were mainly farmers and village traders. They cleared large areas of woodland and made fields for planting crops and farming livestock. They also made and traded in Britain's earliest pottery. Pause. 2. The Neolithic people appear to be the first in Britain to have put up buildings of stone and wood. They also built the first roads, wooden trackways across marshy areas such as the Somerset Levels. Neolithic people buried their dead in communal chambered tombs built of stone. These tombs belong to the class of huge monuments of stone called megaliths. Megalithic monuments also include vast circles of standing stones. The best known of these, Stonehenge, was probably begun about 2700 BC and completed by Bronze Age builders. Between 3000 BC and 2500 BC, people began using metal in Britain. New immigrants arrived in the country. One group came about 1700 BC from the Rhineland and the Netherlands, an Alpine race, and mixed with another from Spain and Portugal, the Iberian people who came here earlier, around 2400 BC. The newcomers were skilled in the use of copper and gold. Unlike the slim, long-headed people of Neolithic Britain, they were stocky and round-headed. Archaeologists refer to the new settlers as the Beaker Folk, because of the distinctive beaker-shaped pottery vessels they buried with their dead. The Beaker Folk tended to live in isolated round houses, not in villages. They usually buried their dead singly under round barrows. By about 1400 BC, Bronze Age people had completed Stonehenge and had built a larger monument at Avebury, in Wiltshire. They also built stone circles in many other places. Archaeologists know little of life in the Bronze Age, but many experts think that the use of the wheel and the plough began in Britain during this period. The Celts. Soon after 800 BC, as the Bronze Age ended, Britain was invaded by the Celts, a new group of immigrants. They belonged to several different groups, but all used a form of the same language, called Celtic. These newcomers are therefore called Celts. Some historians believe that the Celtic language had already spread to Britain earlier in the Bronze Age, perhaps as a result of trade with Europe. By the time the Romans reached Britain, in 55 BC, Celtic had replaced Britain's earlier language almost entirely. The Celts are supposed to have come from Central Europe in three distinct waves. The first Celtic comers were the Gaels. They made iron tools and weapons of high technical quality. The Britons arrived some 2 centuries later, pushing the Gaels to Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and Cornwall, and took possession of the south and east and probably gave their name to the whole country. They brought tools, weapons, shields, and very artistic personal ornaments. Sometime after 100 BC, the Belgae, the most advanced of the Celtic tribes, arrived in southern Britain from Gaul, France, and occupied the greater part of what is known as the home countries, the central part of Great Britain. They used ploughs, made pottery or potter's wheels, and struck metal coins. The Belgae built farms and large settlements that developed into Britain's first towns. Thus, the whole of Britain was occupied by the Celts, who merged with the Picts and Scots, as well as the Alpine part of the population. The term Celtic is often used rather generally to distinguish the early inhabitants of the British Isles from the later Anglo-Saxon invaders. It was a patriarchal clan society based on common ownership of land. It was then that social differentiation began to develop, the tribal chiefs and the semi-dependent native population. The Celts were good warriors. Their communities were ruled by warrior chiefs. They were the first people in Britain to use chariots and to ride on horseback. Celtic war chariots were famous beyond the limits of the country. The Celts were heathens. The priests were called druids, and their superior knowledge was taken for magic power. In England itself, Celtic influence is felt to this very day, though this influence is much weaker, as compared with the other parts of the country. The Celts worshipped nature. The oak tree, mistletoe and holly were sacred. Water was also worshipped as the source of life. There are place names in England connected with the Celts. For example, Avon, the name of a river, which means water in Celtic. The origin of the name Severn, the longest river in the country, is connected with the name of a Celtic goddess, Sabrina. On the eve of the Roman conquest, the Britons were at the stage of decay. Self-control questions. Who were the original population of Britain? How are the Neolithic people characterized? By what time had the Stonehenge been completed? When was Britain invaded by the Celts?